Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Just got to show you something. I'm sure everybody in our area has seen some of this, but it's just an absolutely gorgeous morning. Take a look at this. Yeah, winter. I don't always love it, but sights like these are still absolutely gorgeous, and they kind of make winter worthwhile. So we're gonna head to the barn and get some chores done. I'll take you guys along with me for at least part of that, and you can see what's happening there. Sounds like a bin's empty, guys. I'm gonna go check this out. Yep, that one's empty. We gotta close these slides on the bottom here. Go to the next one here. Slides out. Got to make sure we get it flowing a bit. When you first get a bin going, it usually gets caught up there and creates a little pocket at the bottom, so we just got to make sure it keeps on flowing here. And then the rest of the bin will empty out all on its own, but it's just that initial startup. Sometimes it sits in there for a few days before it gets used, so there we go. Got the pigs fed. Heading to the sheep barn. I guess the one good thing about snow is it does get us out of the mud a little. It's one of the things we always battle here. It's going to be a bit noisy at first, so bear with me. There we are. I'm just gonna go and get these guys fed some corn so that they quiet down, and then I'll show you what's going on here. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the most exciting part of their day. Corn is like candy to them, so. And we got these guys. So like I've said in previous videos, these ones that are getting corn are ones that are our females that were breeding for the first time. This first group that I fed here are all bred already. So we'll be lambing probably next March. Then I've got these 18 here. They were younger than the other ones, so we didn't want to breed them yet. So these will probably be putting the ram in with these in a couple weeks. And so we're trying to keep them in good body condition We give them the extra grain so that they continue to develop really well. It's one of those things that when they're growing and you're breeding and trying to get that first lambing out of them, you want to make sure that they develop really well at the same time, and grow fully out, that we don't stunt their growth. So we got to keep their nutrition really high and really good. So this right here was that first group of lambs that we weaned. I think you saw us wean these in a previous video if you've watched our previous ones. And they've definitely adapted really well to being weaned, and they're eating corn very well. As you can see, this feeder is almost completely empty. This one's not quite yet, and we didn't show it. I don't have any footage of it, but these ones also got weaned, so they're a bit younger. But they're doing well too. As you can see, they're not bawling and whining for their mother at all. And also eating their grain really well. So it's always very encouraging when you see these young lambs growing well. It's one of the most rewarding things that a farmer can have, is to see their livestock doing really well. And yeah, that's really the reward of this job, is seeing things go the way we hope, we plan. So what you see back here, these are the mothers of those lambs that were weaned. They're kind of noisy because they're kind of on a really basic diet of just dry hay, as you can see right here. Mind you, they still like it because that's all they're getting right now. The reason we do that is to get them to dry up as well as we can, get their udders to dry up. If we kept them on a really high plane of nutrition after we weaned them, they could get mastitis, which is basically an infection in their udder that would that could actually become life-threatening if left untreated. So we have to do this. We have to knock down their plane of nutrition in order to get them dried up. And then once we're done that, we basically want to get them ready for breeding again. And in order to do that, we want to start slowly increasing that plane of nutrition, especially their energy levels. So kind of giving them high carbs, I guess, is what it would be. So that's why we're going to start giving these ewes here some corn. Corn is very high in energy. It's an energy source that is very commonly used by farmers in order to achieve that energy gain. So as you can see with these ewes, well, maybe you can't see it very well, but if you look really close, actually I'll just show you what it looks like in the wheelbarrow, but these have also a protein supplement in it to balance out the diet a little more. It's not just energy, it's also protein. They need that protein in order to, like I said, develop well, continue growing for their bone structure, in order to be able to be productive ewes for the rest of their lives. So what we use as our protein source, as I may have said before, is this stuff here. It's called expeller meal. It comes from a local guy here who actually takes soybeans that are harvested off the field, and he puts them through a process and presses the oil out of it, and the byproduct you get is expeller meal, and this is what we use to feed to our sheep. So that soybean has already been used for soybean oil, and now it's being used as a protein source by farmers. So we mix that with the corn in a wheelbarrow. Maybe seems a bit archaic in today's world, but just because we're not feeding a lot of it, we're literally feeding like maybe 3 or 4 pails a day. It takes like maybe 10 minutes of our day. So it's still well worth it for us to not invest in something super expensive at this point. You'll see once we get all of our animals in this barn, because we still have about 200 outdoors, that the feeding process is going to change quite a bit from what we've done right now, where we just bring hay bales in and we drop them in the middle of the alleyway, and we just slowly unroll them and feed it to the ewes. Once we get all those ewes in here, like those 200 that are outside, we're going to be using it's called the bale buster, something that we hook behind the tractor. So we'll definitely be showing that in some future videos once we get those sheep inside, and that'll obviously be a lot less physical labor in order to get our sheep fed. And then maybe I'll show you what's going on pasture, because now that we've got snow out there, it's quite a different scene than what we've seen in the past. Okay, so we're gonna go for a little walk here. As I mentioned in an earlier video, when it got so muddy and wet, we had to move them off the corn stalks, and we moved them down into the valley here beside our farm. And it's the type of land that you can't farm with farm equipment because it's too steep. There's a bunch of trees. So as you can see right here, it's a pretty beautiful scene this morning with the sun out and the snow on the trees. And you'll see I also got the sheep out here, and you might wonder, how in the world do these sheep actually eat anything? But sheep are pretty resilient animals. They can forage really well through the snow and find the grass underneath. So I've got actually a really big area here fenced in. It actually goes, if you look, maybe you can't see it with the snow, but it goes actually up through here all the way through the valley behind this forest, and all the way around this way, and then back up through the valley behind the forest again. So I think they're really happy out here, in spite of what a lot of people might think. They might think, well, come on, you got to get those sheep in the barn. But in weather like this, they actually remain far healthier outside in the open air than they would in a barn, especially if that barn isn't super well ventilated. Sheep like cold. To be honest, they probably would prefer -10 to +30. So this is something that is no big deal to them. You think their feet would freeze off, but it's the way they were created. They can handle this, and they actually don't mind it. The only thing I don't like is the mud, and we still don't have a lot of frost in the ground, so sometimes they can get mud stuck between their hooves, and that can cause them a bit of discomfort. So if you see the odd one limping, that's possibly what it is. But for the most part, this is actually a really healthy way to raise these sheep, and it's also a cheap way to keep them. I mean, if I could do this all winter with a good permanent outdoor paddock, which is kind of what I'm considering getting into because I'm getting so short on barn space. But anyway, I just thought I'd show you. They don't look near as clean when there's snow out, but this is working for them, and we're gonna do this as long as we can. In order to save on sheep feed. This is their mineral bucket. So I guess like a lot of people do, we do give them a supplement of mineral, and we do that because it's very important that their diet is very balanced in all their mineral needs. So when we feed them grass or even just pasture like we are here, the pasture could easily be deficient in certain minerals that aren't found in high quantities here in the soil, so they don't really get them from the foraging. So that's why we need to supplement them, just to keep everything in perfect balance. As it is with human health, when we become deficient in certain minerals or vitamins, bad things start to happen. And the same thing with sheep. Not only do we want to keep them healthy because that's the right thing to do, we also want to keep them healthy and growing well for it to be profitable. And healthy sheep makes for happy farmers. So that's where they are for now. We're going to probably be bringing some supplemental hay out here, just because I want to know that these are all in their early stages of pregnancy, and we want to know that they're still getting what they need, that they don't have to work too hard to find their daily requirements out here on pasture. Okay, so I'm back in the sheep barn here, and I forgot to mention another important part of a sheep's nutrition is that they always have an iodine salt block supplement. This is what it looks like when it's brand new. It's just a big, it's probably like a 30 or 40 pound block of salt. This is their mineral, which somebody did a bit of doo-doo in. And then once they've been, let's check on these for a second. They're out of mineral. Once they've been licking for a while, it starts to get looking like that. So the reason we give them salt, which is basically available to them freely at all times, is because almost every basic function of in a sheep's body requires salt. So we got to have that available to them at all times. And then we also give them the mineral. If we don't have the salt in there with the mineral, they'll actually pig out on the salt, on the mineral, because they're trying to find salt. I think there's a little bit of salt in the mineral as well. And then we go through a lot of extra mineral, which is totally not necessary because mineral is not cheap. And so that's why we keep those salt blocks in there. You'll see that in almost every pen that we have. They should have that block in there. So, all right, so everybody's happy because they're all fed. These guys right here are those ewe lambs, and they, as you can see, have different hay than the ones at the back that I was showing you before. And that's because these guys have baleage. Baleage is basically hay that's been baled up in the field when it hasn't dried down yet. So it would be probably at about 50 to 60% moisture, whereas dry hay would be at like 10 to 14 probably percent. So basically what happens when we bale it up that way, we wrap it in plastic probably about 6 times in order to trap all the oxygen and air from getting at it. And what happens then is a fermentation process, which basically preserves the hay for a long period of time. And it's actually much more nutritious, in generally speaking, than dry hay. It's very easy to make very high quality hay when you make it wet, because you maintain all the leaves, which is where a lot of your protein lies. And so as you can see, when we feed these younger animals that higher protein baleage, it's going to help them a lot to maintain good body condition as they're growing and also as they're pregnant. So that's why they're on this high plane of nutrition. This would be almost a diet that we would use, just before they lamb in preparation for nursing. So that's what we do when we're just getting these animals prepped and ready for their first bit of their productive life as mature ewes, I guess. So that about wraps it up for morning sheep chores. We got those mineral buckets filled there at the end yet. I didn't show you that, so now I'm just in my truck heading around the barn to the pig barn. So as maybe you haven't noticed, unless you watched our very first video, the intro to our farm, we do have pigs as well. We have an 1,800 head pig barn where I take care of pigs for another farmer. So I'm basically the manager of a barn, of my own barn, but of somebody else's pigs. And right now we're in the shipping period, so they're ready for market. So I have to go in the pig barn right now. It's my next job, and I've got to sort out 123, I believe. Just yesterday I shipped 210. That's what fits on a full tractor trailer load, is 210 hogs. These hogs weigh probably about 270 pounds. And today, like I said, I got to sort out another 123. So that's my job right now. It's not actually a job I love to do, but it's part of it. And tomorrow I'll be shipping them. So I don't show you what's in the pig barn simply because the pigs aren't mine. So I'm not sure I would have the freedom of showing everything that goes on in there, considering they're not my pigs. So at this point, you know, it might be something we do in the future if I can get permission from the owner to say, do you mind if I do a bit of a rundown of what goes on in the pig barn? That definitely might be something we do in the future, but for now we're just going to leave it at a description of what we're doing in there, and we'll have to see where it goes from there. All right guys, so we got the sorting of hogs out of the way. That's basically how a lot of my mornings go. I don't have to sort hogs every morning, of course. I do that usually once or twice a week, and I have about 6 or 7 weeks of shipping, a shipping period. That's about what it takes to get the whole barn empty. And then we have to wash the whole barn with a pressure washer, and we start getting little pigs in. They're probably about 50 or 60 pounds. So that's how that procedure works. So that's, I'd probably say I have another 3 or 4 weeks of shipping, washing, and that sort of thing. And then we'll have 12 weeks roughly where we won't have any of that. It'll just basically be managing the pigs that are in the barn until they get to market weight again. So anyway, I want to say thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and stay tuned for our next videos. If you like what you're seeing on the channel, hit the subscribe button, and stay tuned for our next ones. Thanks.